here's some really tactical things you could do about the client thing. Take your entire client roster, throw it into an Excel spreadsheet.
You're singing to my heart, Carl.
No, I know. So in the columns, just create columns. And one of the columns should be revenue, right? Like, because what we're really thinking of doing is like, we want to find a group of clients that we could replicate, and we would be happy if we had X. And for me, it was always 100. If I had 100 of these, this would be a good business. So revenue is one of them. I like to make one of the columns be occupation. So I think anytime we talk about niches or specialization, I think the shortcut is occupation, right? We're just really trying to find a group of people who have a similar problem that we can solve. And I like to think of the problem. I also like to think of, am I interested in solving that problem, right? Because if you're gonna do it for a while, you want to be interested in it. So the shortcut to finding a group of people that have a similar problem that you can solve is obviously the quickest shortcut is occupation. The other thing that's nice about occupation is we know where those people hang out. We know what they listen to. We know what podcasts they might read. So
they tend to have publications. They tend to have associations. There are things you can join to find them. Just they collect in natural places that makes it easy to go where they are once you decide you're focusing with them.
We should have clarified that up front. You've bought into a niche, and for the sake of this conversation, you bought into an occupational niche. If you need convincing on that, find other episodes or we'll talk another time. So an occupation. So you got a column for revenue. You got a column for, so I'm thinking quantifiable columns quantitative columns at first, that we can actually put revenue in, we can put occupation in. And then there's a whole series of columns that I like to just think of as subjective, qualitative, like how much do you like working with them? And I always just did it 1 through 10. So I just literally put a number down.
Okay.
Would I like to have 100 of them? Like you can just, how often do I have to meet with them? Like what service model? So you can just come up with a couple of things that allow you then to sort, right? And then just notice, like Michael said, that's how you could find those 5 or 10. Like that's the nitty gritty way of finding those 5 or 10. And particularly if you notice like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize I had 3 dentists that I like working with that turn out that if I had 100 of them, I'd have a really good business. Mm-hmm. So let's assume something falls out of there like dentists. And it literally is, you're not going to get more. I know you want more. I know I want more. Like, how do I pick the niche that I'm not going to make a mistake? We're going to take a little bit of a risk here, right? Like we're going to say, oh, interesting. There was 4 architects. I didn't even know that. They're all partners at small architectural firms. That's really interesting. And we're just going to treat that as tailwind for the next step. Like we can't know yet. We don't have enough information. So we're going to make a small bet, or another way to think about this is run a small experiment. And the small experiment is I've got 4 architects, and I'm picking architects on purpose because I don't know anybody who has a niche on architects. And I'm not using ER doctors or radiologists or anesthesia because I don't want to lead you in a certain path. So let's just say architects. So then to me, the next step is what Michael pointed at. Let's go interview these people. Let's go gather information. It's just an experiment. I'm a researcher. So at this point, take your marketing hat off. Greetings, Carl here. Now that little clip you just watched of Michael Kitces and I, that's from our podcast, Kitces and Carl. And I love those conversations. But did you know, this is sort of a secret, but did you know that there's another conversation? I have another conversation every month. It's a private conversation that you can only hear in my membership program at the Society of Advice. It's called The Membership. So here's the deal. I invite one of my favorite people every month. I actually kind of refer to it as Carl Talks to Smart People. So I invite a really smart, impactful person. Sometimes these are really well-known authors and thinkers. Sometimes it's obscure people you'll never have heard of, but I promise you will be massively insightful. And I invite them to have a conversation with me about 3 things. Number 1, the craft of advice. And remember, these are almost always people from outside the financial services industry. So how to give better advice. Number 2, how to do meaningful work, often in public, because that's kind of hard. a little bit scary, right? And number 3, how to be a better human. Because I believe if we want to be better advisors, the best way to start is be better humans, right? So you're invited to that conversation every month. It's 90 minutes, dedicated space on your calendar to think about the impact you want to make. Because I don't know if you get that very often, but I hardly ever get time to think about the impact because I'm so busy doing the things, right? So that's what the membership is. People love it. And you know what? I don't think you should take my word for it. I think you should try. I have an idea. Let's do a free trial. 7-day free trial. There's a link. Just click the link and start your 7-day free trial to see what I'm talking about. Thanks, my friend.